What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Taste Like Music. Jason and Joe here. It is tier list time. We are this week talking about different years in music history. We do this all the time on the channel. We had a whole albums of the year series followed by our songs of the year series, and now we're doing our deep dive series and always debating the quality of different years. So now we are going to kind of set the record straight on how we feel about each of these years. We're going to start at 65, the way we started our albums of the year series. And yeah, I guess, are we talking about, generally speaking, singles, albums combined? Are we talking about album output, or what are we doing?
We could just think of it as music in general, and I think albums probably hold a stronger sway in determining the rankings of a year. But if there's some really great singles in there, maybe that puts one year over the top.
All right. Well, let's do it. 1965.
Well, it's the first great year for albums. 64. Yeah, I still think 64 is like a singles year. So 65, you got Rubber Soul and Beach Boys Today and Mr. Tambourine Man and the two Bob Dylans, Bringing It All Back Home, Highway 51. Couple Beatles albums. It's, The Who are here. The Kinks, the Zombies, the Stones, Nina Simone, John Coltrane. I think it's a pretty strong year, but it's probably just strong at the top. I don't know how deep it is.
Charlie Brown
So
Christmas, too.
Charlie Brown Christmas, absolutely. It's probably gonna land in like A for me.
I think it's B.
B?
Yeah. As I just don't think once you get, I mean, there is a pretty impressive list of great albums. Maybe you go 20 or 30 deep, but then after that, I think you're kind of kaput. So for me, it's not as deep as like a year in the 2000s or something where there's like hundreds of good albums. You have your 20 or 30 like all-time classics, and then what do you got?
Well, it's gonna be another sticking point between us because I will take those all-time albums over 10,000 albums from 2004. But B's okay. We can start with B.
66. This is the year of Pet Sounds, Revolver, Blonde on Blonde, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme, Sunshine, Superman, Sound of Silence.
It's tough because again, at the top, just all-time, three of the greatest albums of all time. Plus, you got Stones and Mamas and Papas and Kinks and Birds and Who and Stevie Wonder and there's a lot of stuff. But if we're putting 65 in B, it's probably the same situation for 66.
Yeah, I think it's of about the same quality. Maybe even some like bigger names at the top, and but possibly thinning out even more quickly.
Could be. We have not deep dived it yet, so we'll have to.
Yeah, I think it's got to go the same way as 65. Then we got 67, which is Sergeant Pepper's Magical Mystery Tour. Small Faces, Grateful Dead, Laura Nero, Scott Walker, Left Bank, Donovan, Moby Grape, Between the Buttons by the Stones, Velvet Underground and Nico, John Wesley Harding, Who Sell Out, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Wild Honey, Disraeli Gears, Their Satanic Majesty's Request, Bee Gees First David Bowie, First Leonard Cohen, Forever Changes, Something Else by the Kinks, Younger Than Yesterday, Tim Buckley, Procol Harum, Traffic,
A lot of stuff. Couple Monkeys albums.
the first Harry Nilsson, some good country stuff. So yeah, I think this is a little bit stronger than the first two. This is an A year for me.
Yeah, I am probably an S for me. I think it's a pretty big step up as far as like the quantity of quality goes. The amount of genre is really putting forth their best work. But the 70s are coming up, so I guess we can keep it an A.
68.
Again, it's just loaded. Zombies, Birds, Kinks, Birds Again, Stones, Hendrix, Beatles, at least one Aretha Franklin, some Doors, you got Sly, you got Tyrannosaurus Rex, if you're into that kind of thing. Joni Mitchell, Pink Floyd, Randy Newman. Velvet Underground. There's a lot of good stuff here.
I think it's slightly weaker actually than 67 though. If I had to choose
It
one
might
of,
be. It
if I had
might
to
be.
just choose one of those years, I'd probably go 67 over 68. So yeah, it's probably A for me also.
Yeah, we can do A, I guess.
69. I remember I used to subscribe to Guitar World magazine, and they had an issue proclaiming 69 the greatest year ever for music. And I don't know, Abbey Road, Nashville Skyline, Gilded Palace of Sin, the band, Zeppelin,
Not
uh,
just one, two Zeppelin.
two Zeppelins, Dusty in Memphis, Let It Bleed, Five Leaves Left. Uh,
3 CCR albums.
yeah, everybody knows this is nowhere. Hot Rats,
3 Fairport Convention albums.
yeah, Chicago, Odessa by the Bee Gees, Beckola, Space Oddity, Carpenters, Dr. John, Court of the Crimson King, Blind Faith, Tim Buckley, Karen Dalton, Rod Stewart.
There's a lot of good stuff. To me, this is an S. This is another step up. Just the quantity and the quality. To me,
It's
2 Zeppelin, 3 CCR, 3 Fairport.
it's probably A still for me. It's a high A.
Man, you are a tough grader.
1970. This is where you get all your solo Beatles stuff starting to come out. You also get Let It Be, Stage Fright, some underrated classics like Emmett Rhodes, Man Who Sold the World,
Another Zeppelin, couple
Sabbath.
Sabbath albums. Yeah, Sabbath. Great Beach Boys, great Kinks.
Yep. Humbleweed
Uh,
Connection.
I think this is a deeper year. This is one of the deeper years, I think, in history. Peak, not as good as 69. In fact, it might not be as good as 68 or 67 at the very top. But it is just so deep that, again, I'm up to S for this.
Yeah, this is in this year for me as well.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's even stronger at the top too.
Wow.
71. The year that I
Yes.
notoriously had a very weird top five, but
Yes.
I stand by them.
Ridiculous.
They're
Ridiculous.
still personal favorites. And all the ones that I didn't put in my top five, the ones that I snubbed are all great too. So I mean, yeah.
Was this the year of Teaser and the Firecat? I feel like this was the year that Cramser just flummoxed everyone with.
Yeah, Cramwent Teaser and the Firecat is his number one. But I mean, you got Hunky Dory, Sticky Fingers, Imagine, Master of Reality, Aqualung, Killer by Alice Cooper, Madman Across the Water, Surf's Up, Trafalgar by the Bee Gees, Chicago 3, Fireball by Deep Purple, Brain Capers by Mott the Hoople, Zeppelin 4, Straight Up by Badfinger,
What's
uh,
going on? Blue. Who's next?
Yes Album and Fragile.
Very good year.
Yeah. Strong contender for the greatest of all time, I think. So that's an S. 72, another strong contender for my favorite of all time. The Slider, Something Anything, All the Young Dudes, Ziggy Stardust, Pink Moon, Son of Schmielson, number one record, Honky Chateau, Talking Book, Sail Away, Machine Head,
Oh yeah. Keep coming.
Bare Trees, Black Sabbath Volume 4, Foxtrot, Skulls Out, Carl and the Passions, Jeff Beck Group, yeah, Jackson Brown, Roxy Music, Can't Buy a Thrill, yeah,
2 Roxy Musics, I think.
yep, it's a crazy year.
Yeah, it's an easy S for me.
Yep, it's an S. 73, another year that I love. One of the more recent deep dives that we did. We did that at the end of last year, and yeah, Queen, Mott, Todd Rundgren, Two Wings Records, Pink Floyd, Marvin Gaye, Elton John, more Steely Dan,
Another Elton John.
New York Dolls, The Eagles, Desperado, Goat's Head Soup.
Another easy S for me. Not
Yep,
even
yep,
debatable.
that's an S. 74. The one we are working on right now, we're about to record 94. We're already into 74 as far as listening to stuff. So I think it's a lot of people seem to think like this is where the 70s start to go downhill, and I do not agree with that at all. I love 74. I think there's so much good stuff. So this is still an S for me.
Yeah, I think I talked crap on 74 in our album of the year series back in the day, way back in the day, but I was wrong. It's an incredibly strong year and incredibly deep year, and the number of genres that are just producing incredible records is out of sight. So I'll go S again, although I don't think I like it better than like 69 or even maybe 68 or 67. I think those are all S's for me. This is just S territory, but I'll keep it going with S here.
See, I do. If you're talking about like the best 5 year stretch, I take 74 over 69. So 70 to
Oh, wow.
74 for me is my favorite 5 year run.
Mhm. Ooh, that's tough. I don't want to think about it. I'd probably go 70 or 69 to 73.
But I actually think 75 is better than 74.
Woo-wee.
You've got Night at the Opera, Toys in the Attic, Physical Graffiti, even some like not as considered classic records, but records that I think are great, like Elite Hotel by Emmylou Harris and Teaser by Tommy Bolin. And you also got Blood on the Tracks and Sabotage. And yeah, I think the first Ian Hunter solo record, it's just a crazy good year. I think it's great. Force It by UFO. Fuck.
ABBA by ABBA.
But yeah, that's another S for me. I love it.
Yeah, it's an S for me too. I think it's incredible. Yeah, it's another year like people think it's not as good as the early 70s years, but at the top, I mean, Physical Graffiti, Wish You Were Here, Born to Run, Katie Lied, Captain Fantastic, Night at the Opera, Toys in the Attic, Sabotage. I mean, those are all in my top 200 of all time, probably, which maybe you'll get to find out soon enough, but it's just incredible. I mean, I even love both of the Elton John albums, and we just did Jethro Tull, Minstrel in the Gallery was great. Young Americans is underrated.
Yeah.
Great. That's fantastic.
76. This one might be a little step down from the rest of the 70s so far. But it's still really strong. You got Station to Station and Warren Zevon self-titled, A New World Record by ELO, Desire by Dylan, Technical Ecstasy, A Day at the Races, Long May You Run, Hejira, No Heavy Petting, Shake Some Action by the Flaming Groovies. You got the debut from Tom Petty. You got 2112 by Rush, Destroyer by Kiss, Black and Blue from the Stones, Rocks from Aerosmith, Trick of the Tail from Genesis, Jailbreak from Thin Lizzy. Get the Ramones. Yeah, it's not a bad year at all. It's probably an A for me.
Yeah, I'll go A. I think it's easily the worst of the 70s so far, but it's still really good. You got some more metal coming in finally, and yeah, just really deep again. These 70s years, even if you don't love like the big albums, there's something for you in there.
77's like I think it's a step up from 76. I think it's a little bit of a bounce back. I don't know if it goes all the way back to Astronaut. It's like right on the cusp. But you got Rumors, you got the Cheap Trick debut, which is one of my favorite albums ever. I love it. Talking Heads debut. My Aim is True. A lot of debuts, a lot of like the new guard showing up. So it's like really interesting and cool for that reason. But I don't know that those bands are hitting their peak quite yet. So that's maybe my issue with this year. But you got Running on Empty, you got Asia from Steely Dan, A Farewell to Kings, Even in the Quietest Moments from Supertramp, you got Marquee Moon, Pacific Ocean Blue from Dennis Wilson, Peter
Never
Gabriel.
mind. Yeah, Peter Gabriel one. Never mind the Bollocks, Sex Pistols. Got
Uh,
an ABBA. Beach Boys Love You. Going for the One, Radis, Norwegia Kiss. News of the World, Sin After Sin, Exodus, Street Survivors, The Stranger.
I
Those are
think
all albums I like a lot.
Yeah, I still think it might be an A, like the top of A.
It's close. I think without a proper deep dive, did we do 76 an A or an S?
A.
Yeah, I mean if we're gonna be this critical, I think we can put it in A. I can live with that.
All right. 1978 would probably be my choice for the worst of the 70s. It's still the 70s, though. I still probably wouldn't go lower than A on it, but I think it's a pretty solidly an A and not an S. Excitable Boy, The Cars, Van Halen, Heaven Tonight from Cheap Trick. Then, I don't know, Street Legal is great. Darkness on the Edge of Town, Hemispheres. But seriously, folks, from Joe Walsh is a personal favorite. This year's model, but I mean, it kind of starts to Some Girls is pretty cool. Parallel Lines, just not quite as much great stuff.
Yeah, a lot of good debuts. You got the Cars and Kate Bush and Van Halen and the Police. But it's not quite as strong, I think, top to bottom. The very top, other than Van Halen one for me, Kick Inside, Hear My Dear. Those are all really good, but I don't know if they're like all time like top 100 albums. So these are like top 200 to 300 albums. So
I think,
yeah, and there's too much punk and new wave coming in, so that knocks it down a little bit.
you know, so the people that are more into punk and new wave and that kind of stuff will often say 79 is the greatest year of all time. I've heard that argued as the best ever. I think 79 is a little overrated as a year. There's still a lot of stuff I like in it, but yeah, this is like a lower A for me. 79. Armed Forces, Pretenders, Drums and Wires by XTC, Damn the Torpedoes, Candy-O by the Cars, Cool for Cats, Manifesto, Breakfast in America, Lodger, Dream Police, Fear of Music, The Roaches debut.
It's still a great
It's
year.
great.
Prince self-titled.
It's great, but I don't think it's
No, I'm comfortable with an A for this. It's clearly not quite as good as the peak A or peak 70 years.
yeah, and then the decade turns over and someone turns off the faucet, I think. So I don't know what happens. Like immediate.
No, 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 no.
Yeah,
1980 is basically a honorary 1970s year.
I don't know. I love my top five. I'd go to bat for my top five in 80, but it after that it's hard to make a top 10.
Well, I think it's great. Heaven and Hell, Dirty Mind. You got Back in Black. You got Permanent Wave, Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. Making Movies is great. Get Happy. Los Angeles from X. You got Blizzard of Oz, Peter Gabriel 3, Gaucho, Drama, Uprising, Glass Houses, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables, Duke, Hotter Than July, The Game, Panorama, The River, you got Double Fantasy, British Steel, Flesh and Blood. I think it's pretty darn deep. At the top, some of my all-time favorites. I think, Black Sea, The Cure, 17 Seconds. I don't know if people like that one as much, but I think it's pretty good.
There's a lot of records I like, just not a ton that I love. So for me, it's a B year.
Mm. I'm A, if not S. It's still one of my favorites of all time. I think it's a step up from those last 70 years, actually.
81. This,
Hmm.
I think at the time I said it was the worst year ever. 81 and 82 were like back-to-back years that I just thought were the absolute pits. And we dove 82, and I came to like it a little bit more, but I still thought it was not very good. 81, we have not deep dived. And yeah, it's not great. It's probably a D for me, I think.
Wow. I would go C. I think it's it's the weakest year we've talked about so far, bar none. other than Trust by Elvis Costello, maybe a couple others. I struggle to find even 5-star records here. So,
Well, you got Moving Pictures.
I mean, there's plenty of good stuff, plenty of 4.5s, but I just think it's a pretty substantial step down from what we were talking about, even in 1980.
So where are you going with it? Like B?
C for
C.
me.
Okay. Well, okay. 82, we deep dove. I did find a 5-star record that I had not heard before, so that was fun.
No, it was terrible for me listening to you pick that 5-star record, but I don't know how you can't love this year. There's so much good metal. There's so much good sophistopop. There's so much good regular pop, some good hard rock, some funk and R&B, and to me, it just has everything you could want in a year, especially at the top with like Number of the Beast and Imperial Bedroom, Thriller, The Dreaming, Screaming for Vengeance, Signals. I love it. It's A, A for me, definitely.
It's another D for me. 83, I think, a little bit better. Yeah, it's a little better. Speaking in Tongues was my album of the year. You've also got Let's Dance and She's So Unusual. Probably the best New Order record in Power, Corruption, and Lies. The Fix, Reach the Beach. So, yeah, this is maybe a C for me, but it might still be a D.
What was 81 for me? A C.
Yeah.
The 81 and 83 and 85, these odd number years in the 80s. Big disappointment mostly. Yeah, I mean, at the top, maybe a couple 5-star albums, but those run out pretty quickly. And then after that, it's a bunch of albums that aren't as good as other albums by most of these bands. I don't know if there's a lot of like new bands coming in to like take the place of like the legacy bands that are kind of fading out. I'm not nearly as high on things like Let's Dance or, you know, whatever else you mentioned that was still good. Talking Heads. I mean, I like Speaking in Tongues, but I wouldn't say it's like a great album. So it's like a C or D for me.
84, we did deep dive, and oof, it was worse than I expected. I thought I like my top five, and I was, you know, prior to deep diving this year, I would have looked at all my top fives comparatively and said 84's got a pretty good one. It's probably one of the better years of the 80s. But then I just didn't find much of anything else that I really liked that much. It was a chore to listen to all of those records, and yeah, it's a bad one. It's an F for me. I think it's one of the weaker years of all time.
I would go at least a B when it has the greatest album of all time, Purple Rain, and then you have great albums like 1984, Ride the Lightning, Grace Under Pressure, Born in the USA, Defenders of the Faith, Swoon, Heartbeat City. I think it's loaded. Stop Making Sense, Unforgettable Fire. I think it's a great year. Two Smiths albums, if you include Hatful of Hollow, which I do. A nice Deep Purple comeback. I think it's great. A for awesome.
85. I'm worried about 85. I feel like 85 could be the next 84 because I like my top five. I like a few outside of my top five even, but then I'm afraid that I wouldn't find much else to enjoy after that. Yeah, I mean, even outside of my top five, it's got songs from The Big Chair. It's got Meat is Murder and Brothers in Arms, and This is the Sea, and Tim, Our Windows. So, I mean, I could make a pretty good top 10 to 15. So, it's probably a D, maybe a C, probably a D.
I believe this is now, and it may have been at the time. I think it was battling with 90 for worst year of all time. Uh, 85 runs away with it at this point, other than Steve McQueen and Hounds of Love, Songs from the Big Chair. I only have 5 albums above 4 stars, which is ludicrous. Like that's like a 2020s kind of year for me. So yeah, I think this is quite easily the worst musical year of all time. Everybody was too busy making We Are the World, and they forgot to write good music. So
1986. There's some big ones in 86. You got So by Peter Gabriel. You got two Elvis Costellos. You got Skylarking. You got The Queen is Dead. Looking beyond that, though, for other favorites, I like They Might Be Giants a lot. The debut from them.
Well, you got Graceland. You got Master of Puppets. You got Color Spring from Talk Talk. Somewhere in Time from Maiden. You got a good Prince record. A controversial Genesis record. You got Van Hagar coming into their own. Dwight Yoakam debut.
Not really getting me
Beastie
too excited
Boys.
there. So yeah, it's another D for me.
Uh, B for me. I think at the top it's as good as 78 anyway.
87. This is where I think the 80s maybe starts to turn around a little bit. Pleased to Meet Me. I like Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. Strange Ways, Here We Come. The Bears, a kind of a cool side group of what's his name?
Adrian Belew.
Adrian Belew. Hold Your Fire by Rush is underrated. Cloud Nine from George Harrison. La Love It, Chris Isaac, that kind of more country singer-songwriter type of thing coming back around. Alt country sort of starting to bubble up a little bit. I don't love the year. I don't think it's incredibly deep, but I think it's a slight improvement. It might be like a C for me.
Probably be a B. I think it's top heavy. Appetite, Joshua Tree, Sign of the Times, Bad, Whitney, White Snake 87, Rules, of course. I think it kind of falls off though once you get past like, George Michael's good, Robbie Robertson. Then you get like Tango in the Night though, which is sort of like kind of C list, B list. Fleetwood Mac and people love like music for the masses and stuff like that, but I don't think it's that good. So, uh, Tunnel of Love, probably like a C for me.
1988. This you get some more of the college rock stuff starting to come to the surface a little bit. Green by REM, Bug by Dinosaur Jr. You got Katie Lang and Lucinda Williams and Dwight Yoakam. Fisherman's Blues by the Waterboys. Surfer Rosa by the Pixies. Daydream Nation by Sonic Youth. Yeah, there's some cool stuff. 16 Lovers Lane. Yeah, it's probably pretty comparable to 87 for me. I'd probably say a C.
Uh, Probably an F for me. D. I'll go D. I think it's another kind of stinker.
89. This goes kind of toe to toe like with 1980 for me for like the best of the decade. I think it's bookended by its best years. You got Doolittle, Disintegration, Oh Mercy by Bob Dylan, Stone Roses, Nearly Human by Todd Rundgren, Hats by the Blue Nile, Gretchen Goes to Nebraska by King's X, Sonic Temple by the Cult. God, I am forgetting names right now. Oranges and Lemons by XTC, Full Moon Fever, Presto, Flowers in the Dirt by McCartney is a little bit of a comeback for him. Lyle Lovett and his large band. Yeah, there's some stuff here. I probably put it in a C. What did I give 80? A B?
Yeah,
Yeah, this probably is. Yeah, it's a C or a B. Probably a C.
I'd probably guess C. I think it has a lot of good albums, but this is the year Pump won it for me, so it can't be like that good. You got Sensual World and The Real Thing and Like a Prayer, all the college rock that you said. Presto, a little underrated Rush album. Rhythm Nation 1814, but not the best.
1990. One of my least favorite sounding years. Every single record that came out in 1990 sounds like ass, if you ask me. So, not good. A year without much of an identity, also. I think it's kind of like in those in between years, but before grunge hit. So, there's I don't know if I have a single 5-star record in 90. I think it's probably Probably down there in the basement with one of the worst years ever. So F for me.
I once thought the way you think, but I've come around. Cocktail Twins, Painkiller. If There Was a Way by Dwight Yoakam, my favorite country album of all time, perhaps. Some other stuff, Black Crowes, Jellyfish, Alice in Chains, Megadeth, Jane's Addiction, Jordan the Comeback, great Prefab Sprout album. Bossa Nova is great. Hard Way, Nowhere. I think it's good, but probably like a C still.
91. This is kind of the year that the grunge kind of hits a little bit. There's a lot of good stuff in 91. I think it's a strong step up from 90. You've got 10, you've got Bandwagon-esque, you've got Green Mine, Trompe Le Monde, Girlfriend by Matthew Sweet, Mama Said by Lenny Kravitz, and then just like some other stuff that isn't really kind of like in that sort of grunge zeitgeist moment, but still very cool stuff like Mighty Like a Rose and Roll the Bones and yeah, Sailing the Seas of Cheese.
Yeah. Other stuff like Loveless, Bad Motorfinger, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Metallica, Screamadelica, Use Your Illusion, Diamonds and Pearls, Prince, nice comeback there. Temple of the Dog, No More Tears, and not Spiderland. Spiderland sucks, but everything else, I'd go B. Low End Theory, got some
It's a
rap
B.
coming in.
I agree. It's a B. The original series of albums of the year, I found 92 to be one of the most surprisingly disappointing years through the whole run. A year that I expected to be very strong because of, you know, Nirvana had hit at this point. I figured there would be a ton of good rock stuff and just a weird, like, kind of down year where a lot of bands didn't release things until 93. And yeah, I had Blind Melon and Black Crowes in my top five. So I don't know what's going on with 92.
Yeah, that's
It needs a full deep dive, but yeah, I found it pretty lacking. So it's like a D for me.
Yeah, I think I'd go C. It's got a couple of my all-time favorites. Angel Dust and Dirt, Images and Words, Little Earthquakes, Rage Against the Machine, Debut, Automatic the People's Goods, Seven Harmony, and whatever the hell it's called from Black Crowes, Core. I don't know if it drops off pretty quick though after like the real good stuff. It might be like one of my least listened to years. I just don't have much from 92 and I don't really like know that much that like came out in 92. So maybe it is a weak year, but I think at the top I have it like a C. I think those top albums are pretty necessary in my life.
93 comes back pretty strong with two of my favorite albums ever, with Where You Been by Dinosaur Jr. and August and Everything After by Counting Crows. You've also got Uncle Tupelo and Another Teenage Fan Club. Transmission from the Satellite Heart, Flaming Lips starting to get good, and underrated records like Coverdale Page, Gentleman by Afghan Wigs, Are You Gonna Go My Way, Verses by Pearl Jam. You've got Red House Painters and In Utero and Pablo Honey, Mazzy Star, all kinds of stuff. So big improvement over 92. I would say that that is probably a B for me. High B, maybe an A, flirting with A
Wow.
possibly.
I'm going D. So bring that right back down to earth. Other than the top five, I just don't care about any of these albums at all. And I'm more of a Brit rock, Blur, Suede. My winner was Jellyfish, Pearl Jam, Smashing Pumpkins, all good. Dwight Yoakam, good. Snoop Doggy Dogg, good. After that, pretty rough. Pretty rough. I think I have Cranberries in my top like 11 here, so it's a pretty lousy year. D. D for me.
94, the one we just did. We try not to give away too much, but I did not find a lot that I didn't know already. I'll say that. For me, probably like the top is pretty strong. And compared to like 84, where another year that we did deep dive and I said I didn't find very much, I at least started with a stronger set of records. I would take my top 25 from 94 any day over my top 25 from 84. So It's probably a C for me.
I found 84 and 94 to be pretty similar in the depth department. At the top, some great records, but I'd probably go C for 94 is a little disappointing.
95, you've got The Bends and I Should Coco and Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. Wreck Your Life, Old 97s, and Whiskey Town, and AM by Wilco. You've also got Post by Bjork, Different Class by Pulp, self-titled Elliott Smith, Relish by Joan Osborne, which I think is pretty underrated, Alien Lanes by Guided by Voices. You get the Rotten Sexsmith self-titled album, Grand Prix by Teenage Fan Club. There's a lot of good stuff. Tomorrow the Green Grass by the Jayhawks. It's a good B year for me, I think.
I can't go higher than C. Again, top heavy, but for whatever reason, probably because I was like 10, 9 years old, I didn't listen to a lot of these albums from 95, 94, 93, 92. So I don't know if they're deep. I don't know if I like any of these albums that you've been mentioning. Probably not. So I think I gotta go like a C.
Seems you're much more 80s than 90s, which I find a little surprising.
Oh yeah, by far.
96, you've got Pinkerton, Being There, Title by Fiona Apple, No Code, Beautiful Freak by the Eels, Odelay, Tiger Milk, Tiny Music, Anima by Tool. I kind of like a lot of these. Scenery and Fish by I Mother Earth is one I like a lot. You got a Sloan record, Recovering the Satellites. Did I say that already? This is a pretty strong B for me.
B. We are just going in opposite directions. This would be my first F. I think this year sucks. I don't think I have a single 5-star album. This is definitely the beginning of the end as far as years that have anything to offer me, really. I think it's pretty lousy. And you got Fishman's long season this year, which immediately drops it down a whole letter grade in my mind.
97, OK Computer. In It for the Money, Either or, Hand It Over, Dinosaur Jr., I Can Hear the Heart Beating is one by Yo La Tengo, Time Out of Mind by Bob Dylan. This one doesn't look as deep to me, looking it over as 96. So, I mean, it does have a few all-timers. It's got The Mollusk from Ween and Homogenic from Bjork, Science by Incubus. I don't know. It's it's a C for me, I think.
This is another, I only know 23 albums from this whole year. I think this literally the least amount of albums I've listened to, at least that I've cataloged. And other than the top three, the big three for me, Whatever and Ever Amen, OK Computer, and In It for the Money, which are all three of my favorites of all time. Nothing else really hits home for me. This is just into genres that have emerged that I just really don't like that much. Not an alternative rock guy for the most part. So yeah, this is a D probably just because of those top three. Everything else is probably an F.
All right, 98, a year we did deep dive. Didn't love it, but it's got some stuff I like. Mutations was my album of the year. It's also got Yield, my favorite Pearl Jam record, and EXO by Elliott Smith, and Mermaid Avenue, the first Mermaid Avenue record, and Good Morning Spider by Sparkle Horse, and yeah, it's probably like a C or a D.
F for me. Still sucks. Even after the deep dive. Probably my favorite album of the whole year I didn't even find until after the deep dive was over. So shows you how much I hated that year.
1999. I don't know. I think it's maybe a little better than 98. You got Summer Teeth and self-titled Supergrass, When the Pawn, Soft Bulletin, The Man Who, Euphoria Morning, Midnight Vultures, Yeah, there's some cool stuff. Razorblade Romance by him is a fun one. So yeah, I'd probably say C.
Yeah, I have no idea if this is a good year or not. Some good stuff, but I don't know if I like love any of these albums. Euphoria Morning was my winner. But I think When the Pawn Falls is great, and There's Nothing Left to Lose by Foo Fighters is great. Metropolis Part 2 is pretty great. But after that, I don't know. Things are just falling apart for me. In '99, I was really into like listening to '80s one-hit wonders, because the music on the radio sucked so much. So D for me.
So then we're into the early 2000s, and for these years, these are a weird space for me because at some point, I don't know when exactly it was, I kind of went through the 90s and kind of wiped out. I listened to all the 90s stuff that I felt like I should know. And starting in like '04 is when I got much more into kind of like indie music, and I was listening to all of that stuff in real time. But all the like cooler indie stuff from 2000 to 2004 is stuff that I've now heard, but it wasn't as meaningful to me. So these are kind of weird years for me. 2000, you've got J Mascis and the Fog record, More Light. You got The Moon in Antarctica by Modest Mouse, Figure Eight by Elliott Smith, Heartbreaker by Ryan Adams, Daisies of the Galaxy by Eels, Parachutes by Coldplay, Nixon by Lamb Chop, Anthony and the Johnsons, Mermaid Avenue Volume 2, Blood Flowers by The Cure. There's all kinds of stuff. There's a lot, but yeah, like I said, not a lot of them are like close to my heart. So for me, it's probably like a C.
We are so opposite at this point. This is where I really started liking new music again, 2000, after a dry '90s. I really got into, I think at the time, stuff like At the Drive-In, Relationship of Command, I really loved. I bought Stankonia by Outkast, Rated R, Queens of the Stone Age. Fell in love with that one, watching MTV2 at like 3 a.m. Saw, I think, the video for Monsters in the Parasol. Iron Maiden had a good comeback. U2 had a good comeback. Doves, Hives. I'm up to like a B. I think this is probably my favorite year since like '94, maybe even earlier.
2001, I think, has more stuff that I like than 2000. You've got Poses by Rufus Wainwright. You got End of Amnesia by M. Ward, which is an all-timer for me. Time Travel is Lonely by John Vanderslice. You've got Blue Boy by Ron Sexsmith. It's a Wonderful Life by Sparkle Horse. For the Birds by The Frames. Music for the Morning After by Pete Yorn is great and underrated. Girls Can Tell by Spoon. Invisible Band by Travis. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here that I like. It would probably be a B.
I can probably live with a B. At the top, it's not my favorite, but you do have The Blueprint and Origin of Symmetry, I Get Wet, Rockin' the Suburbs, Lateralus, Toxicity, Tenacious D, some good stuff. Oh Inverted World, Free All Angels. I think it's pretty deep, so I can go up to B on it, I think.
2002, a lot of good stuff that I like. A pretty strong top five for me personally. Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, Sea Change, Life on Other Planets, Shasha, and The Instigator by Rhett Miller. You also have O by Damien Rice, which lived in my car that year. A Rush of Blood to the Head, Come Away With Me. What else? The Guest, I think, is a really underrated record, that Phantom Planet. Rush came back with Vapor Trails. Is a Woman by Lamb Chop. Yoshimi. If Cram were here, he would point out that Turn on the Bright Lights came out that year.
D. I guess C, maybe.
Yeah, it's like I'll say B.
B. Oof. Oi.
All right, 2003 is we're starting to turn it around a little. We're getting back towards like all-time favorite years. 2003, Shoots Too Narrow, Youth and Young Manhood, Dear Catastrophe Waitress, So Much for the City, Out of the Shadow, 1972, Hello Starling, It Still Moves, Room on Fire, Action Packed, From Every Sphere, just lots of stuff I like a lot. So this is like a high B for me.
That's tough because at the top we did the deep dive. I really ran out of stuff. Once you get towards the bottom, I Lincoln Park, for God's sake, making the top 25. Brad Paisley. I could not find things that I really liked. I have more 3.5s and threes for this year than probably any other. Maybe like newer 2018 or so, but 2019, 2020, the stuff that we've been doing while this channel's been active. But as far as a deep dive goes, I just could not find anything I really liked. So you gotta go D. You gotta go D for 03.
2004.
Final year.
If you want to know how Joe feels about everything after, it's all F.
Mm, yeah, pretty much.
2005, which we're not going to talk about, is like a top 5 year for me ever. It's probably S, but 2004, Basement on the Hill, A Ghost is Born, More Adventurous by Rilo Kiley, So Jealous by Tegan and Sarah, Funeral, a lot of stuff that I could name that is maybe more obscure and won't matter to people, but there's a lot of good stuff. Just trust me.
Yeah, I like this year. College Dropout, Kanye, Hot Fuss, My Chemical Romance. Hells yeah. All Day, Baby. American Idiot. You Are the Quarry by Morrissey. Scissor Sisters, all the stuff you said, Winning Days, Contraband. I was really into like Velvet Revolver in 2004. Contraband came out. I was losing my mind. Um, I don't like it that much anymore, but I really loved it in 2004. So
Yeah.
I'll go C.
See, this is we've climbed our way all the way back from the D's and F's of the 80s, and I'm gonna go A.
Wow. Wow.
2004.
A. No, nothing in the 2000s. 2000 would be the closest to A for me. And if we did a deep dive, I think I could go A for 2000, but I don't think anything after could ever make it back to those hollowed levels.
It's all
Hallowed levels.
it's all because of 9/11.
How dare you, sir? Too soon.
Just ruined music for you. You could never feel in quite the same way.
Nothing ever came back from it. America, music, movies, all sucks. Everything sucks now.
All right. Well, let us know what you think of these years. What are your favorite years, and what do you think of our opinions of them? Let us know in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, check the video description, check us out on Patreon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.